Hey guys, I am Ibigandscary. I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay, this time featuring in the top left corner SK Poti. I'm going to go with SK for this kid. He is a blue Protoss and he is on Masters League. And Hordeon is our red Zerg. I have cast several of his games before. And he's also a Masters, and we are on Ohana. It is a Zerg versus Protoss, which is probably the least dynamic of openings and the most fun to watch once it gets into the late game, just because of all the shenanigans that can go on. But I'm not going to lie, it's going to be a boring next 3 minutes, unless somebody does something absolutely crazy. And SK does not show any signs of doing that. He's throwing down that first pylon. Going to be working on his Forge Fast Expand. I do not fast forward through openings. I don't, unless it's something like a 50-minute game, which I've cast before, and it was a nightmare. But Protoss versus Zerg, just oh man, I want to, I really do. But you know, you never know. There could be a 10 pool, there could be a 6 pool. There's not going to be a 10 or 6 pool today because Hordeon's already passed the 13 supply mark, and he'll be hitting that the 15 supply mark. It'll either be a pool first or a hatch first, regardless. I mean, we know what's coming. And look at that, some nice control there from his drones, just trying to get the surround on that probe. Wow, that probe is being incredibly snarky, trying to get in there, and it's been really easy to get a surround on that probe and actually kill him. But in reality, he's just getting a fantastic scout off, seeing that that spawning pool did indeed go down, and Hordeon's trying to sneak a drone out by the wayside, but SK is just a little bit too clever for that. He's already got his probe on a patrol pattern, pulling another drone from Hordeon just to make sure that the first probe shies away from the actual building site of that hatchery. Some nice delay action here, actually. He's delaying it by quite a bit, probably at the 30 seconds, maybe 30 seconds later than it would have been normally. Probably not even that. And on the other side of things, SK's already thrown down his first Nexus, and he did it before a Forge, but he did that because he had such a good scout for that spawning pool, sees that it's only just now finishing, and immediately throws down the Forge as soon as that spawning pool finishes. So even though these 4 Zerglings are going to get out on the field, and even though they're probably going to be knocking at the door right whenever the cannon is finishing, they probably won't be able to finish. And even if they do, the cannon will get 1 or 2 shots off, and it'll probably kill 1 or 2 of the Zerglings. And even if they do succeed in breaking down the door, Hordeon's going to have to sacrifice a lot of resources to actually break it down. So I think SK has this timing down pat. Like I said, I mean, it's an incredibly common build, and you know what to expect whenever you're up against a Zerg, and you know the timings. And Hordeon's got a fantastic scout on that timing. He's going to see that Nexus went up first, or at least at a very aggressive time, and even moving his Overlord down to the south just to get the scouting on that photon cannon. Like I said, it's going to be about halfway done right whenever these Zerglings are arriving. And look at that, pulling just 3, because you can only get a hit on 2 of them if it's done properly. Usually you can get 3. But what is that other Zergling doing? Is he going home? He's just going home. He's going to probably getting the scout off just to see exactly what's happening. Photon cannon finishes just in the nick of time. 81 hit points left. Got one shot off on those Zerglings as they were retreating, but we saw that SK was nervous about that. He pulled his probes off just to reinforce that barrier, made it so that the Zerglings wouldn't, get in a good surround or anything like that, even though the probes outnumbered them 4-1. Speaking of outnumber them, Zerg is beginning to build up that economy. I mean, he's got 21 harvesters right now, but 27 over SK. SK just showing you exactly what happens whenever you chrono boost out all of your probes. But now that second hatchery is up and the third hatchery is on the way, we're going to see that the economy of Hordeon kicks it into high gear. All those minerals are going to be spent 100% on drones until the saturation's in a good way, and then we're going to see 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of these Vespene geysers taken, and we're going to see exactly what path Hordeon decides to take. Could he go for the heavy upgrade path for the Zerglings and Infestors, Roach Mass, Roach Infestor? Basically any build revolves around those Infestors at this point, but what is going to be used in conjunction with those Infestors it's sometimes interesting. Hey, there goes those first 2 gases. Is he grabbing any more? No, he's not. And like I said, I mean, that harvester count, he was about 9 behind a little while ago, and now he's back to only about 3. So in a couple of seconds we'll check back and we'll see exactly how far ahead he skyrocketed, if anything. 4 gas total for SK. He is working on that robotics facility, which is very interesting to see that. I mean, he went basically 1 gate into a robo bay, and that is a bit of an aggressive build by way of tech. He's definitely going to be thankful for that overlord, that overseer, because when that overseer, that observer, good lord, that observer gets out, he's going to be able to see basically everything that Hordeon's doing, because static detection is not something that Zerg is very strong on, unless you detect air. And what he's going to see is that there's 3 gas grabs right now, which signifies some sort of roach push. 2 Evo chambers too, so he's going to be using a lot of that earlier gas on that. And 10 drones coming out right now, and once those pop, we can see that they're neck and neck right now, but that saturation down at the third is going to be absolutely fantastic. On the other side of the thing, the hatchery is being morphed into a lair, and the overlord is being suicided in. It's going to get the scout off on that robotics facility, plus the other 2 gateways maxing out that 3 and 4 gate. You can usually supply 4 unit producing structures off of 1 base for Protoss. He's got 4 plus the forge working on 1, which usually counts at about 2 as long as you're constantly doing upgrades. So SK is going to have excess gas, he's going to have excess minerals, so I'm expecting we're going to see another couple of structures added on, or he's going to be thinking about moving out and taking a 3rd expansion, and he is working on those rocks. I'm sure eventually he wants to take that 3rd, but how aggressive he wants to be for that land grab, that economy grab, will really dictate the pace of this game, because if he moves out too early, he's going to be incredibly exposed. Hordeon has those 2 Evo chambers out, and those Evo chambers are working on ground upgrades. Ground armor is incredibly important, and with the Roach Warren, with the ground melee, it signifies to me that he's going to be trying for a more primarily infestor pit play. He's not going to be relying too much on the Zerglings to do the damage. I think he eventually wants to go for that Roach Infestor, but then eventually go up all the way up to those Ultra Lords. Ultralisks. Good. Ultra Lords? That's not even a unit. I have no idea. Look at all those Zerglings though moving out. They're going to be taking advantage of the upgrades that we'll be finishing in just a couple of seconds, and also the fact that this fantastic scout of an Overlord has noticed that 3rd's going out, but these sentries have been out for a very long time. They have quite a lot of energy, and in conjunction with those immortals, they're going to make short work of these Zerglings. With the +1 already being done, Hordeon Zerglings are going to get basically sliced and diced because neither of those upgrades were done. If this engagement had happened just a couple of minutes later, the 1-1 would have been finished, and those Zerglings would have been far more effective against this force. However, then you run the risk of this wall off being completed. Those pylons are done. Gateways are going to be used to shore up those little gaps, and then those Zerglings would have to run through a very narrow choke and would have gotten cut to pieces by those Zerglings. So it was a very difficult decision for Hordeon right there, trying to, do I strike now and strike whenever I don't have those upgrades, or do I strike later and run the risk of getting force fielded into oblivion? Pathogen glands is being researched to actually pass that mark where you can actually make the infestors, and they're going to use that research by the time they actually pop out, as well as the glial reconstitution, so the roaches are going to be a little bit faster. We're going to see those roaches added in. However, scouting so many of those immortals, how many roaches are we going to see out of Hordeon right now? They're not going to be as effective as you would expect, because those immortals absolutely chew up those roaches. Poking at the front door, those roaches are going to make short work of that lone photon cannon, but here's that choke I was talking about, and there goes the force field. If any of those Zerglings had pushed in, they would have been destroyed immediately, and here's 2 more of those chokes. So Hordeon is in a bad way if he's thinking about taking that, denying that 3rd. In fact, at this point, he can't. So it looks like he's going to fall back, try to work on his economy, while SK is working on his tech. Twilight Council is already up, and Blink has been researched completely. So those stalkers are going to be very mobile. You can see another immortal and another observer on the way for the robotics facility, and a dark shrine is just now finishing, which is going to be really neat. I mean, we do see a lot of warp gates, and the DT's ability to harass is never to be underestimated, but more importantly, DTs can be made into Archons later on that are a little bit more mineral intensive. They cost less gas, which allows SK to use that precious gas whenever he's only on 3 gates into some other form of higher tech, and we can see that the higher tech that he's pursuing right now is +1 armor, as well as the +2. Oh, wow, was that +3? That's +3 weapons already. 2 DTs on the way, as well as a Stargate. Is that back with the bundle of joy back here? Look at all those structures. This is ridiculous. A single Stargate, not much is going to do against Hordeon. He's already got the infestors out, and that's basically mobile anti-air. If he's thinking about making phoenixes, that's fine. If he's only expecting to get 1 or 2 shots off with them, more likely this is for some sort of higher tech, get a fleet beacon out, or maybe just a progressive build, throw on 1 or 2 more of those Stargates, and do a full-on tech switch. we will see. There goes the fungal growth, not succeeding in killing that one Dark Templar. In fact, he's already gotten 3 workers killed, but with the Overseer warping, we're going to see that the damage done by these DTs is going to be pretty mitigated. 1 or 2 DTs are absolutely fantastic at doing quite a lot of damage, taking that one. I don't know if that's the best use for that DT. I don't know. It'll be good scouting, though. He's definitely going to see when Hordeon decides to move out. We can see he's got quite a lot of those Zerglings out right now, and with the +2 completely finished, those Zerglings are going to be far more effective at dealing with SK's army, especially now that he's decided to push out, take a little bit more of an aggressive stance, position his army down at the bottom of the ramp by his natural, and that's because he wants to do this, take his 3rd. At the same time, he's going to be relying on this Warp Prism to keep Hordeon contained, keep him on the back foot, because if Hordeon catches this army out in the middle of the field, I don't care how many Immortals you have, how many centuries, and how long they've been out with full energy, they're going to die. They're going to die very, very quickly because you're going to have a ball and it's going to have fungal growths right on top of it with Zerglings running little rings around the circle of death. And so this is exactly what needs to happen as this Warp Prism needs to be successful. And it looks like it's been scouted, probably by this little fella right here, this Overlord that was really nicely positioned for the gas timing and has managed to stay alive through this entire thing just because he's too far away for the Stalkers to do any damage. A little bit of a push from Hordeon up here at the 3rd is going to succeed in taking out 1 or 2 of the pylons, but it's going to be pushed back just because this engagement right here is perfect for SK. Using the terrain to his advantage, just throwing out a ridiculous number of force fields at the same time, pushing with his Warp Prism. The Corruptors are flying right past the Warp Prism, not doing any damage, but we don't see any units being warped in just yet. It looks like all of these Zerglings have gone down with the exception of just a handful. The Infestors have remained alive, though, and that's the big win for Hordeon, is just keeping those casters alive so that they can fight another day. 2nd Warp Prism positioning over by the 3rd, but the plethora of spines that we can see out of Hordeon is really doing a good job at keeping those Warp Prisms they're not doing anything. They're not paying for themselves. They're basically wasted tech right now. And yeah, they're pressure, but SK is dealing with the pressure from the Zerg regardless. The Zerg army really doesn't have to feel like it has to stay close to deal with that because of so many spines already out right now. And Hordeon just has so much extra money that he can afford to deal with this. The Zealots have made their way out, just doing a little bit of damage, finding the weak spot so they can attack on the left side there, but some good reactions from Hordeon. A nice fungal growth down on those Zerglings. All they succeeded in doing was taking out the Queen. However, Hordeon's definitely losing this battle. 46,000 over 30,000 for the resources lost tab. He is on 4 bases, but guess what? So is the Protoss, and Protoss is neck and neck with him in drones as they begin to saturate this 4th. We're going to see that the economy is actually going to be favoring Protoss in a couple of minutes, I'm sure. The single Warp Prism that survived, the one on the bottom right, was caught with a fungal growth right before I snapped off. I'm assuming it was taken down by some infested Terrans, or these Corruptors, which now have 2 kills to their name, taking out that other Warp Prism, so Hordeon should feel comfortable enough to push out again, but what he really needs to do is get a surround, morphing these guys into Broodlords, buying some time, getting those Broodlings out so they can do quite a lot of damage. It looks like this was indeed his end game. I was totally wrong on those Ultra-Lords. I guess Broodlings do take advantage of +2, +3 ground weapons, and Zergling Infestor is definitely a very low economy build that can allow you to tech very, very quickly 2 Broodlords. I mean, these are very fast Broodlords, and the number that we have out right now and the number that we'll be seeing shortly with another 2 Corruptors on the way, another 2 Broodlords on the way, it's going to be a very intimidating army. However, we do see a, where is it? Yeah, Fleet Beacon. Fleet Beacon already out on the field. I'm assuming that's going to be for carriers, probably 3 Stargates out right now. SK is doing a really good job of keeping Hordeon from taking out any of his bases. However, he hasn't done any damage to Hordeon himself yet. He's succeeded in taking out quite a lot of Zerglings, maybe a couple of Roaches, but the only reason he's so successful in those engagements is because of so many chokes. And with that mothership out right now, I think SK is going to feel confident enough to actually push out, take a little bit more of an aggressive stance. All those Infestors are so very, very exposed right now, but without any AoE, but not without any High Templars in this mix right now to do a feedback, those Infestors succeed in pulling back. Man, pursued by some of those Stalkers, but another fungal growth, keeping those Stalkers contained, sniping out one of those, another quick blink, but man, they're so very far forward. The Broodlords turning around, they're like, well, fine, if you want to die, I will oblige you, then just gonna kill him. It's fine. Hordeon will probably need to start sacrificing units. First to go is probably going to be these Zerglings so that they can get out more of these Broodlords, because that's going to be the moneymaker for this matchup. The third Warp Prism is out on the field right now, and SK is also completely maxed, and he's beginning to work on his own carriers, so he needs to do something. So does Hordeon. They're both itching for a fight. This is going to be it. This is probably going to crash my computer, not going to lie. But we don't see a lot of anti-air here. Don't see a lot of anti-air at all. Hordeon going the WTF. I'm not 100% sure what he saw for that. Maybe over here. I'm not sure. Maybe just got the mothership. Not 100% sure. Don't see a lot of detection in this actually at all. Where is the Overseer to counter this mothership? The mothership will get focused down by the handful of corruptors that are out on the field right now, but there's not nearly enough to actually take down that mothership before the stalkers focus them down. Trying to buy a little bit of time with the infested Terrans coming out of those infestors, but every single ounce of energy that he spends on those infested Terran is energy that he's going to wish he had to fungal growth later on. Well, massive amounts of Void Rays being hallucinated into the field. The infested Terran are also out, realizing that they're not taking any damage from this. SK is pushing down with his main force. Hordeon's got a very nice concave prepared for it, but always got to be careful with these Broodlords. Those two Broodlords are definitely going to die. There goes a Storm, a bit of an overkill really for just two Broodlords that can be taken out by a quick blink from those. There goes the mind control on the mothership. However, it died way too fast in order for Hordeon to successfully throw down the Vortex or maybe even the Mass Recall. Hordeon's going to have to engage as soon as this army from SK pokes up and takes some damage from those spine crawlers up on the high ground. The Corruptors are a little bit out of position, taking a lot of damage from the Stalkers, not doing any damage to the unit that needs it, which is this mothership. There goes another Storm. SK is going to have to commit to this eventually, and he's beginning to lose supply. Hordeon re-macroing with 16 Corruptors, the +2 weapons on the way, 1 or 2 volleys coming out of those Corruptors before they get absolutely melted away. There goes the mind control, 2 vortexes in quick succession. All of a sudden SK has had the wind knocked out of his sails, beginning to pull back. There goes those Zerglings that I wish had died several minutes ago to make room for more Broodlords, but Hordeon showing you exactly what you do with a good economy, which is save your units, and he's using them to a very, very nice effect. There goes 2 Storms on the infestors, but they pull back just in time, not taking barely any damage from that. All of a sudden SK, who had a fully maxed out army, is completely demolished. The mothership did go down, correct? Or did he, no, it didn't have any energy for a withdrawal. I believe it is dead. Yes, indeed it is. 23 Stalkers. All of a sudden SK is really far on the back foot, and Hordeon is looking to keep the aggression, take up here into the third. Look at that wall, though. It looks like he's going to be pushing off into the third in the top right corner, not the fourth. SK's hoping to keep Hordeon contained, hoping to pull back that army by warping that Warp Prism into the bottom left corner, maybe bring out a couple of DTs, but really he's spending all of his warp ins from his Warp Gate tech on Stalkers back up here to deal with this impending push from Hordeon. He needs those Warp Gates not to be on cooldown, and he needs those units desperately to defend his third. The Stalkers have managed to push forward to get underneath those Broodlords, but there's just too many Broodlings preventing those Stalkers from doing too much damage. I mean, 9 Broodlords right now are going to be battering down this ground. There's not a lot of units left alive to support them on the ground, except for a handful of infestors which can throw out those infested Terrans, but really, what do you need? There's so many Broodlords out right now. SK is just waiting to re-macro, try to get out enough carriers so that he can push back, but it looks like this third is destined to die because that mothership is not quite done. And look down in the bottom left-hand corner, we don't see any action coming out of that Warp Prism because, once again, he's just paralyzed because he's desperately trying to defend this third. He needs to keep that mining base in, but easy. Yeah, Hordeon being mannered. He agrees. Oh man, those Broodlords and Infestors are just so freaking good. And I'm thankful that they're being nerfed. I don't know if Fungal was the problem or if the Infested Terran is the problem. I don't know. But the nerf is coming out, and so it's going to radically change the in-game for those Broodlords. I think it's going to be really weird to see this sort of composition get absolutely crushed by those Infestors trying to push forward super, super far and be very, very exposed to enemy fire because they have to get so close to throw out those fungal growths. I don't really know how close they actually have to get, but I'm assuming it's pretty freaking close because SK had a fantastic army, and it was a really, really tight play by Hordeon to get the mind control off on that mothership and to throw down those 2 vortexes. That was exactly what he needed to do. I'm also glad they're changing the vortexes too. This whole matchup, this replay is going to be so weird to watch in 6 months if anybody would. Speaking of watching, I appreciate you guys watching my replay. If you have a game you want me to cast, you could PM me here or on Reddit, one way or another. I will see you guys later. I am Big and Scary. Bye.